Alright, today we're going to talk about newsworthiness, and this is how to know if something is news or not. Sorry if y'all hear Mace throughout this entire presentation. She is currently playing and will not stop anytime soon for me to restart the video 7 times over. Okay, so we want to talk about newsworthiness, and that's really determining if an idea for the story is newsworthy or not, and that can be really challenging for us sometimes. Sometimes you might think that an idea for your story is super interesting and has a place in the school newsletter, or even as you start to build your own magazines, newspapers, and websites, but then the rest of the school might not actually just, agree with you. So we want to make sure that we understand what makes something news, what makes it interesting, what makes it worthwhile reading. So there are 5 news determinants. There's prominence, proximity, timeliness, consequence/impact, and then human interest. So these are things that make an event, a person, or idea actually news. The first one is prominence, and this is kind of big for us coming up. We have, these are things like well-known people, political figures, celebrities, things that they do are newsworthy. So if they are volunteering somewhere or starting something new, like everybody wants to know about it because they are so well-known already. This could also be true in our school too. There's people of prominence like the administration, counselors, maybe like favorite teachers throughout, also like coaches, anybody in our class SGA. Then there's proximity. So these are events that are closer to home. They're more newsworthy than events taking place far away. You want to know what's happening next to you. And it doesn't always matter what's happening outside of where you are closest to. The next one is timeliness. So this is, people want to know what just happened or what is happening now. So they don't really want to know what's happening, like a year ago, 2 years ago. They want to know what's happening right now. What is, if it's more timely, if it's sooner up news, then the more newsworthy it's going to be. The fourth one is consequences and impact. Stories that directly impact or affect your readers have more significant news value. Okay, so the greater the impact of the story has on your readers, the more newsworthy it is. So people care about what affects them, what impacts them, and if your story does just that, then more people are going to want to read it. The last one is human interest, and this plays into a lot of things that we as students in middle school are interested in. These are just stories that are interesting to read. So things that are emotional, things that make us happy or sad or angry or sympathetic. Those sad stories about puppies and the happy stories about babies being adopted. And then there's stories that have conflict. Like people love, President Trump is pretty interesting in the news because there's a lot of conflict surrounding him. And then stories that are unique, so things that are out of the ordinary. Those are interesting and newsworthy topics. So now we want to do something similar as to what we did yesterday, where you had to guess what section of the newspaper something fell under, and these are just where what kind of news determinants do these potential stories have, and they're all going to be school-based. They can have multiple news determinants. So here's a couple of examples. So this one is new dress code. The administration at your school will begin enforcing a new dress code on Monday. This new dress code is a lot more strict than the one currently in place. So what can this possibly fall under? So these have multiple news determinants that really fall under this, that make this potential story interesting. So there's proximity, so this is happening at your school. There's timeliness, it's starting next week, so it's up and coming. And then there's a consequence for everybody. This is going to affect all of the students. So this is a newsworthy topic. Here's a new one. So teacher retiring. One of the most loved teachers at your school is retiring at the end of the year after teaching at your school for 35 years. What could make this newsworthy? Why is this newsworthy? So again, there are always multiple parts that could make it news, okay? So there's proximity. So again, this is happening at your school. This is going to affect a lot of students, and its prominence because this teacher was a favorite among students. So one of the most loved teachers at your school. So very well known. Okay. Girls volleyball goes undefeated. The girls volleyball team at your school just won their last game of the season last night, finishing regular season play with an undefeated record. Playoffs begin next week. So again, you have multiple, so there's that timeliness, just happened last night, talking about playoffs next week. This is going to affect a lot of students, and it's happening at your school. So we're beginning to see a trend of things that can be multiple. So here's kind of an outlier one. So it says students love taking selfies, so why not write a how-to tutorial that includes pictures and step-by-step instructions on how to take the perfect selfie? This is a human interest piece because you have to think about who is reading your writing. Sometimes it's going to be geared towards me, sometimes it's going to be geared toward the school, sometimes it's just going to be geared towards the peers around you. And sometimes it might be a larger audience, so you always want to think about who you're writing for. Okay? And then this is one of our last ones, Saturday school. Your school is deciding if they can offer Saturday school to students to help them make up credits and absences. The school will present their case at the next board meeting. These have impact. It has proximity because it's happening in your school, and it also has timeliness because it's going to occur at the next board meeting. So you kind of see the trend moving here. Okay? So you really want to think about, is it news? Is it not news? And I want to skip through this part for you guys because I want you to really get into the lesson today, but just to think about, and I'll post this online if you want to check through and kind of quiz yourself, is it newsworthy for your city or is it more for your school newspaper? And they have like a couple of things that are pretty interesting here. But I just want to review with you guys. So making sure that we understand that there are 5 different news determinants, and so this next assignment that you'll complete today is going to have you find an article that follows at least one of these or is newsworthy because one of these news determinants, and then answer the questions within your assignment sheet. So if I can show that to you, it's this lime green kind of color. Nice green with little blue boxes. You're going to attach the link to the article that you find exciting or newsworthy, and then below you'll complete all of the answers. Okay? Great. Please let me know if you have any questions. Again, I'm going to have my computer with me today, so please feel free to just reach out. And if you ever need anything, you can find one of the editors or Ms. Black.